Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Pitch Perfect, the start of Start Peninsula 2023, year 11, I believe. So thank you all for participating. For those that have participated in the past, welcome back. For those, this is your first time, welcome. Say this will be everything that you make of it. You will get out of it what you put into it. So we encourage you to lean into the discomfort. Gary will force that upon you in about 45 minutes time. But no, in all seriousness, this is going to, we'll have fun tonight. This is a very low threat environment. You are officially in a no judgment zone, and we are here to learn from one another. So you are at Pitch Perfect, and we will discuss the elements that goes into a 3-minute pitch. Before we get started, my name is Tim Ryan. I have been with Start Peninsula from the very beginning, back when this was an idea, back in the day, long ago. This was a weekend competition, and we have since then extended this into a year-round set of events. So I encourage you to participate in all of those. I have worked with thousands of founders, startups, created incubators. I am the director of Start Wheel. Also the director of Reactor. That is most recent. That is working with high-tech businesses in the city of Hampton. So if you have a high-tech business, come and join us at Reactor. We're doing some really cool things there, leveraging NASA and other deep tech things. Also invested in 30 or so companies myself, so I can look at things from what do you need from a founder, validate your idea standpoint, but also from a check writing standpoint. And I am the help with the picking the judges so that they can represent Start Peninsula. And I have had the pleasure of doing this class with Gary Plaag for several years now, and I will let Gary introduce himself.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary, and I think, started helping Tim with this, and we met each other in about 2015 or 16, and then we've been working together on this for the past 5 or so years, I think. And I don't live in the area anymore. I used to live in Williamsburg and moved away, but since it's online, I am happy to help here. And my business is a little bit of history. My business is one where I coach people on how they communicate. And this is corporate people, and people will call me, and just a company will call and say, hey, we have 4 people need to be in the Gary program. We want to promote them to this level, and we can't right now, and we need you to help them, and would you work with them for an hour each week? And I say, how long do you want that to run? And they go, until you're done. And they say, and we'll know when you're done. So that's really the space I'm in right now. And the business I have is 25 years old this year. And when I started my business in 1998, there was no help like this. There was no program like this. It was the wild, wild west. You just hoped for the best and tried to make it. And so I'm a survivor, I guess, since I made it 25 years. And so I've been in it from the school of hard knocks, and seen how they can tell their story really well. And I've seen how people can tell their story not very well. And so that's the thing I add to Tim's expertise, is really great business knowledge and entrepreneurial knowledge, and then helping with how you present yourself so other people can believe you and believe in you. So that's my story. I'm happy to tell you more if you want, but it's not very exciting. So I'm excited to help you tonight. And what Tim means by that 45 minutes from now could be rough is that I'm going to be hoping that somebody's going to want to practice tonight and just make a go of it and give it a try, because that's always the scariest part. Even if it's only half baked, ask you to just jump in the pool and test the water tonight. And we can give you feedback. And everybody online can give you feedback. And nobody's going to steal your idea. Don't worry. So I'm ready, Tim.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Gary. Really appreciate all that you do as far as helping this program, but really going above and beyond and helping all the founders. It truly is. It's one of the things I really, really appreciate so much, just because to watch the transition take place from a night like tonight, where this is day one, pitch perfect one of the season, to watch things progress. It's really, really special. It's always talked about that when you're a founder, that you wear so many different hats. And one thing that dawned on me preparing for tonight is that one of the hats that's never really talked about, and we mentioned it to some extent during Pitch Perfect, but congratulations, everybody. You are now a performer. And you are an artist. I mean, that you are creating a thing of art, a thing of beauty, and you are performing this in terms of what your pitch is. And we'll explain to this more in detail, but the thing about it is, if you think about it in the sense of, if you're a performer and then it's your time to go on stage, you want to make sure that you're rehearsed and you're prepared. You don't go, you're not a performer doing an impromptu type of exercise. You want to make sure that you practice all of the elements that go into this pitch. And we are going to talk about the elements of this pitch so you can perform at your absolute best. So with that said, let's jump on in. So we are going to talk about the elements of the pitch, and then we are going to talk, that'll be about the first. We'll conclude at right around 7 o'clock, then 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. People will have the opportunity to ask questions, but also, like Gary said, practice. And what we recommend is that take a piece of paper, grab a pen, and just start writing down ideas as we go over these things. And it's just a matter of just simply writing down simple sentences and with the different topics that we touch on. So this is for Start Peninsula. The steps to participate, you're here. Congratulations. If you have not already applied to pitch, make sure that you apply to pitch. You do that on startpeninsula.com. You want to make sure that you secure your pitch position. There's only one spot left. Normally, we're waiting until the last minute, but there is only one spot left. The micro pitch competition is on March 22nd. It is on Zoom, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, just like we are now. And we're doing this again, since it worked out so well last year, by attending Pitch Perfect. And then when you participate in the micro pitch, then we are refunding the cost of your pitch ticket. So that eliminates that barrier of entry. The big thing that we want, why we charge for the pitch tickets, is just because we want to make sure that people show up. Because it's only limited to 10 people. We want to make sure that you're there, and we don't want to have the no-shows and taking away those slots that people want so badly. And the no-shows eliminate giving someone that chance. So those are the steps. If you have not done it, please do so. And let's get to it. We're going to put 3 minutes on the clock. That is what you're going to have for Start Peninsula. It will be timed. I am typically the timer. Gary is the MC. We co-MC, which this is another aspect to make things nice. By attending Pitch Perfect, and then when you see the same faces at the actual micro pitch event, kind of puts you more at ease. We're all part of the same team here. We want to see you win. So 3 minutes are on the clock. We will have our judges. We put a lot of time into it. Our judges are secure for March 22nd. We have Marty Kazabowski. He is from the ICAP program, specializing in tech. William McFeet, he specializes in bio life sciences. And then we have Bo Turner from 757 Makerspace, who will be a judge. All that stuff will be available. We'll be putting that on the website shortly. But and Bo in the Makerspace space, those are the three judges to round everything out. But we want to avoid you from crashing and burning, seeing you in this type of position. We have seen it before. We do not want, you're here. You're not going to have it. You can look back at the other people that didn't attend Pitch Perfect, and you'll see them make these mistakes, but we're confident that you're going to do really, really well. So we're going to break down the three minutes, and this is in no particular order. This is just this is just a guideline. We recommend you start with an attention getter. That's 10 seconds. And we will talk about what that consists of. It could be a quote, it could be a stat, it could be anything but hi, my name is what we're looking for. But take 10 seconds for that. Then you're going to discuss the problem or the opportunity. 50 seconds there. The solution is 50 seconds. There's a lot to unpack in the solution. So don't get long-winded in the problem. You want to make sure you leave space for the solution. Then you can talk about your name, because people will actually care, because you're talking about something that's really cool. You're talking about the solution that's really, really, it's even cooler. You talk about your name, your company one-liner. We always kid that everyone's going to have a nickname that pitches. So if you give your name and you give a company one-liner, that's have you be remembered by the company one-liner. Like, oh yeah, Gary, he's the communication guy. He solves communication, people that have a fear of communicating or presenting in public. So a one sentence, a company one-liner, one sentence, the clearer, the better. Get into your target market. Yeah, 50 seconds there. And then you have your closing. That could just be recapping your one-liner once again. And ultimately, you want to make them want more. And that is your 3 minutes. And the thing about it is that you want to make sure that this is the movie trailer. We're not trying to give everyone the whole movie, but this is the movie trailer so you can get the second meeting. Just like when you're on initial sales call, you're not trying to close that sales call, close the sale on meeting one. This is to get to meeting two. In this case, meeting two is the championship pitch that will take place November 8th, when we have the top 12 people presenting the top three from each of the 4 micro pitch competitions. Anything you want to add, Gary? All right. Let's start with the problem. So some things to consider about the problem. I said it once before, but stick to 50 seconds. I mean, this is, don't go long. Gary and I can tell we've done this course so many times. We have an internal clock. We know what 50 seconds feels like. And when people are going on about the problem and it's been 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we know immediately that you're not going to have enough time to finish. And then basically what is happening is you're not giving the judges the opportunity to score you properly. These are all the things that are on the judges rubric. Mind you, there's no secrets. We want to see you win. The rubric is open. And this is area number 1. What is the problem? The other thing to add is that people are visual learners. And by that, tell a story. So numbers tell, stories sell. So we want to think about your problem in a use case scenario. I would like to introduce you to Ted, this guy here. Ted goes crazy because every time he encounters such and such problem, this is the face that he has. And he has that because of blah, blah, blah. I am going to solve that. I mean, so it's just like, this is how people learn and this is how people remember. So if you're just talking like deep tech speak, things that nobody understands, it's just going to fly right over their head. So you want to make sure that you're talking about the problem in a story, but at the same time, make sure that you're dictating how big the story or how big the problem is, so that you're giving a little tease in terms of what the market size is. I don't want to see you go too deep into it because we have that 50 seconds for the market, but you want at the same time, you want to start showing you're leading the people that are listening. as far as where this is going and why this is such a big problem that needs to be solved. Make sense? Gary, anything to add? This is a newer slide from last
Yeah,
year.
and no, I think that a really important thing, and it may come up in the next slide, but is that Tim and I watch so many of these, and we find there are so many people that have a solution looking for a problem. Like they've selected a problem that no one really cares about, but they got a great solution for it. And they don't tell us what's the problem at the beginning. So we don't know how their solution fits. We don't know why it's a great solution. We don't even, and we don't know how big their problem is, but they have a great solution. Just wish they had a bigger problem. So just think about that you want to make sure that we know that there is in fact a problem.
And another thing too, thank you for that, Gary. Another thing too is to keep in mind, and we do cover this in a little bit, but I really don't want to forget, because I do talk to judges after each competition, and some of the things that the judges that they struggle with more than anything is the fact that they don't know you, they don't know your company, so you really have to talk to the judges like this is the first time that they're hearing any of this. So you have to tell them from that standpoint. Don't assume that anybody knows anything. But we'll get into that here shortly. So we've identified the problem. Now this is your chance to talk about the solution. And there's different ways that you can talk about the solution. And we're going to go into some of those different ways. One of which is the idea or the innovation behind the solution. So okay, there it is. So remember, the judges don't know you or your business. So keep that in mind when you are describing all of this. But is the problem big enough? Like I said, when we talked about how big is the problem on the problem slide, that's your segue into this area that is also going to lead into the market size. But the thing is, you don't want to sell, like Gary said, you don't want to have a problem that is so niche that nobody wants it. Like the example that I always use is violin oil. There's only so many violinists in the world that need this. Whereas like if you were able to drinking water or something or the oxygen that you need to survive, like that is something that everybody uses. The total addressable market is huge for that. So how is the problem big enough? Are there going to be enough people that want this to see this problem be solved?
Sam, just to clarify that, it might be a niche market and a product that satisfies that. And if you've got 300,000 people that would buy whatever this thing is, well, okay. The problem is that sometimes there are 100 people that would buy it, that might even find it of value. And yeah, it's just knowing that it has a value if you want it to get further than just here's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, and that really brings up a great point, Gary. So thank you for saying that. Is that there's also another category in the sense of like Apple. They're always known for creating a product that you never knew you needed until you have it. So there is that aspect of it as well. Like nobody knew they needed an MP3 player until they had it. Nobody knew that the success of the iPhone until they had it, and then AirPods or what have you. So you could create a category like Airbnb. Nobody understood what that category was. Everybody passed on it. Now it's a $60-70 billion company. So there is creating a category, but that is that's still solving a problem. It just evolved into a total addressable market that nobody saw. Moving on, how are you different or how are you better? And this is important in the sense of these are the things that we're doing, and you can talk and keep the focus on you in the sense of we're doing this, we do this, and not necessarily jabbing at your competition. I mean, you acknowledge that you have the competition, but the thing about it is you don't have to poke holes at them. You don't need to throw shade. You don't need to do those types of things. Keep everything on the up and up, keep it positive, and keep it focused on you, as opposed to, if you start bringing up other companies, now you're planting seeds in judges' minds, like they may not have even considered that company as competition, but now it's the front at top of mind, and they're like, well, I don't know, can they beat this company or that company? So how are you different? How are you better? Clicked on the wrong button, clicked on chat. How much better is your solution? And again, you can do this without cutting other people down. But the thing about it is that you really want to focus on a 10x solution. So if you're trying to change a customer's behavior, you need to change, it needs to be 10 times better than the current solution that is out there in order to change that customer behavior. So that's like the 10x rule. That's what you need to think about, and you need to describe in the solution when you are touching on the idea and the innovation factor. The how you are doing that, how you are 10x.
And Tim, I just put this in the chat too, that nobody likes a bully who trashes their competition. So you may be right, but nobody likes to listen to that. I have a friend that always says, he's a lawyer, he always goes, well, that might be fun, probably wouldn't be helpful. So, run it through that filter. It might be fun to do it, but probably won't be helpful, and it makes people feel uncomfortable. So
cool. Next, we're going to talk about the team. And the team is it's super important. That is one of the 3 key elements that you need. You need a product, you need a team, and you need customers. So you talk to the solution, that's talking about your product and how that is better. Now is your team. Your team is the one that's going to make the amazing product. And this is the part where you showcase your strengths. This is what makes you so good. This is what shows that why you or your team, they're the ones that are going to solve this problem no matter what. Let me go back. Because and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but in terms of like, this is your why, this is showing who you are and why you're going to do it. But like if you have X amount of number of years in your particular industry, that's something that you need to highlight. If you're one of the very few people on the earth that is able to do this, that is really important. If members of your team are the very few people that can make this thing a reality, all really, really important stuff. And the thing is that your team is what's going to make this happen. It starts to like add, to show that you are the people that are going to do it. It's great to have this pipe dream, but this is an idea about building business. This is not a competition of who can build the most grandioso dream that is never going to come to reality. You really need to show that, hey, I'm building the most beautiful home, energy efficient home that ever created, and these are the people that are going to do it. These are the framers. This person's going to do the shingling. This is the electricians and the team doing that. The flooring team. You have all these people already lined up. They're ready to go, and now you're like, oh, I got it. That totally makes sense to me. Yeah, this is someone that I can back. If you're a second-time founder, a third-time founder, that's great. I would as an investor, I want to invest in somebody that's a second time or a third time founder. That adds credibility. I'm not worried about if you failed. You learn more from failing than you do from winning. And I like to know, it's a different conversation with someone. So this is their second or third time out. It's like, when we do have that conversation, it's like, hey, what you learn? And I know they're not going to make any of those mistakes again. So those things that you would not think are something that you can showcase as part of your team, oftentimes it is. It's always amazing to me how many times I'll talk to a founder like, yeah, I don't know if I should include this. It's like, yeah, you totally should include this. I mean, that is who you are. Same thing with like the experience that having logos from the companies that where you came from. If you're doing some sort of AI type of business and you came from ChatGTP, yeah, that means something. There's value in that. Anything to add, Gary?
Yeah, I was going to say that this is the most, when I talk to people, this is the most difficult thing that they do. When I meet somebody and I say, well, tell me about you. And they're really embarrassed to talk about themselves and what their strengths are or whatever, even when they're given that opportunity. And I have to reiterate what Tim said. In this situation, this is your chance to do that. And so you got to get past, if you have this hesitancy to talk about yourself in a positive way, you need to get past that, because these people don't know you, and you can do it in a non-arrogant way and still be informative. So I remember working with a student, this is probably 25 years ago, 30 years ago, coaching him in a high school thing. And I said, like, tell me something that's not on your resume. And he said, well, I was a child actor on television for 5 years. And I'm thinking, why isn't that on your resume? Like, why are you not telling people that when you're in the job market? And he just said, I don't want to talk about myself like that. And I'm thinking, what kind of experiences did you have as a child actor? So yeah, highlight your team. If this person did something, you have this world famous rocket scientist on your team and it's relevant, then tell people, and maybe even your own experience of what you bring to the team. So that's all I would add, just to say this is probably the most difficult thing from a personal psychological perspective, is to talk about your value and what makes you and the people you surround yourself with valuable in this endeavor.
Perfect. All right, moving on. We're going to go and talk about the market or marketability. Let's see what we got. So, have you identified your customer? Who are you selling to? Who wants this particular product or service that you are providing? And then once you identify, you have to demonstrate your understanding. So you need to understand the size of the market. This is called your TAM. That is your total addressable market. There's a couple things to add regarding your TAM. If you are if you are doing, say you've discovered, I'm trying to think something super niche. That's for the sake of argument. You developed a solar panel film that goes over your windows so that can generate solar power to your house through the use of your windows. And so you're trying to figure out who your total addressable market is and what that size is. And then you do a quick Google search and you're like, what's the size of the real estate market? And it says globally it's $3 trillion. That is not your total addressable market. That is what, so if you take that number, that is what would be called your top-down total addressable market. The reality of it is, if you take out all the commercial real estate, because you're only focused on residential, you take out all of the condos, because that doesn't work due to condo associations. But then you're really only focused on houses that are 3 to 4 bedrooms typically, because that there needs to be enough windows in order to make this product or service to actually see a return. Then when you narrow down all of that, maybe that $3 trillion market that's top down, you've narrowed it down and now you realize that it's a $500 billion market. So it's still a huge market, but it's a lot more realistic than 3 trillion. And that is going to build credibility. That's your bottom up. And that's not to say that you couldn't eventually go into commercial real estate or into condo associations or that kind of thing. But you want to start realistically. This is where I am starting. This is the focus. And then slowly we can expand to something more. So you want to, during your pitch, you want to show to the judges or the person that you're pitching to that, yeah, I understand the market. I'm not just going to do a 10-second Google search and this is what it's going to tell me. I've actually taken some time to analyze what the market is, what the size of it is, take out the things that aren't applicable to me, and then really see what is that true total addressable market and what you're going after. You're going to build credibility at that point. And so with that, to back that up, the smaller the focus, the better. And the thing is that it's really, really counterintuitive, but it's so true. You can't, as a new founder, you're going to everyone always talks about how cash is king and revenue and sales is what solves all problems. All really, really important stuff. But the thing about it is that you cannot be all things to all people. So you have to narrow down your focus, know who the clients are that you are marketing to, and focus on them. And you'll be amazed to see how the outcome is so different when you have that narrow focus. And then talk about how are you delighting customers? If you have customers, how many customers do you have? What kind of growth rate are you experiencing? What is the feedback that people are saying? Are they saying great things about the team? Are they just talking about how great the product is? If you don't necessarily have a product, which is totally okay, this is Start Peninsula, this is to validate your business idea. How many customers have you talked to? What was the feedback that they're telling you? If you've gone out and you've talked to 150 potential customers, and this is what the overwhelming response has been, and you're able to share what those responses are, that adds value. That shows to me that you're really in this to win this and that you want to make this thing a reality. So customers, potential customers, if you're doing just the research based on customer feedback, all super valid. That's the stuff that you need to be focused on, and that's just the things that you need to include. Gary, what you got?
I'm just reminded of, I think I've mentioned this on other of these Pitch Perfects, but I'm reminded of, I heard of a story where these students they thought they had the perfect pillow and they were going to market this pillow. And somebody told them to go and test the market and find out, one, do people really want this kind of a pillow? And so they went and stood at like a Bed Bath and Beyond in the pillow section. And every time somebody would come to that area and pick up a pillow and put it in the basket, they would interview the person and ask, why did you select that pillow? And they learned so much about why people were really buying these various types of pillows. They weren't just making the next best mousetrap. You know, they were actually designing a pillow for specific things, and they learned more and more what people wanted in a pillow. Was it comfort? Was it this? Was it this? Was it this? But they did that research, and that's exactly what we would like. What the judges want to know: Have you really looked at this? Have you pulled back the covers on this and said, yeah, this is something that's really needed? That, you know, we did market research on this, and we asked people. We did a focus group with 300 people, and, you know, just that kind of information the judges want to know, because then it all translates to the fact that it's not just a dream. This is actually something you're passionate about if you're going to go and dig into all those details. So that's just what I would add. That's why this is helpful.
And to round everything out, if you're following with all the information, I know this is like drinking from a fire hose, but to round this out, Tim, at the very beginning, you talked about a story, and you introduced Ted, and Ted has this problem, and now you're talking about the market and customers And how is all of that part of the story? Well, it's just like, this is where it's like the art and the performance comes into play in terms of, so now Ted is happy, and there's millions other like Ted. I've talked to 150 people just like Ted that experienced the same problems, and this is some of the feedback that I received. So this is how we're telling that story, that the performance aspect, people remember this. This is what we're talking about. So just if you were wondering how all this comes into play, that's how it all works, and it takes a lot of work. But we'll get there. It's all about the execution, right? Oh, the execution. So yeah, we talked about this earlier. What is your why? Super, super important. Everybody knows being a founder, the highs are high, the lows are low. But your why is what's going to get you out of bed in the morning. The why is what is going to keep you going after you've been punched in the face 3 days straight. Because you are going to be the team to solve that problem. No matter what, you are going to make it a reality. And the investors, they invest in people more than the idea. So when I say people, it's you, the founder, and you, the team. So like, there is a reason why this is the Tesla factory in terms of the execution. And when Elon is sleeping on the factory floor because they were in the middle of production hell and they had to get through it, that Elon's why was very, very clear. They are transforming the globe to fully for zero emissions and battery powered cars. I mean, so he is there doing it. That's just someone that you don't bet against. And so your why will come out in your story, and the passion of why you're going to do it will come out in your story. And it's amazing how many times you talk to judges, or as I listen to pitches from founders, that it's like, there's just something about them where they're just like, wow, they're going to get it done no matter what. There's just something about them that no matter what, they're going to make that a reality. And the thing is, the potential to make a lot of money is not your why. So that answer I will already give you. That is not it, because as soon as you do get punched in the face 3 days in a row, you're running out of cash, you just lost a team member, you don't know what you're going to do. It's super easy then to be like, this one's not going to really work. I'm going to go after the next opportunity to make a lot of money. So making a lot of money is not the answer. That why has got to be rooted deep, deep, deep within you in order to make it happen. Yeah, we can touch on this for a while. Gary, what do you have to add?
Just that this has to be so clearly evident to the people, the judges in this case. You can't just say it, you have to live it, or they won't believe you. So you would have to be an Academy Award winning actor, and then they still might not believe you. So it has to just be part of your core that we can tell this person is jacked up about this idea and they are committed to it. It's not a wish, it's a commitment. I'm gonna do it even when it's hard. What is that sign used to have in the office, Tim, that the dream is free, or the idea is free, the hustles cost extra, or something?
So, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to see it. And so we want to see it from an authentic place. This is where the performance part comes. It's you living in this circumstance, and we see that you are passionate and committed. And we can go back and look at recordings of past Pitch Perfect or pitch competitions, and you can tell, even if they didn't win, you can still tell the people who are really passionate and committed to their idea and what they're willing to do. So that's all I would add, Tim, is just that this has to be so evident that you are committed to making this happen, even if if it's uncomfortable for you. And that's what Tim meant earlier by leaning into the discomfort. Because to make the dream happen is going to get very uncomfortable for many people. And we have to see that you're committed to that. That's all.
Yeah, and it's something that I always have trouble with too, because I mean, like I'll see people out and about throughout Hampton Roads, and or people will come and they'll say that, like, "Gosh, Tim, you know everybody, or everybody knows you," and yeah, I don't have that. What am I going to do? And I hear what people are saying, but the reality of it is like helping founders is my why, and I do this from the time that I wake up to the time I close my eyes at night, and even then I'm waking up in the middle of the night because I'm thinking about this stuff, and I've been at it for so long that, like, me doing all the different things that I'm doing for founders, that's a culmination of years and years and years of blood, sweat, and tears during that process. So it's just like, I can't fake that stuff. I mean, people see me out. I take every call. I answer every email. I mean, I meet every meeting. Yeah, I mean, I will go out of my way to talk to founders and give them advice and whatnot. And if you don't believe me, I challenge you to try me, and I'm going to get back to you. And the same holds true with Gary. So when we're done with this, we're like, hey, send us a recording of your pitch. Send us the transcript. Challenge us. We will get that back to you, and we will provide you with comments, because that's our why, and that is what we do and why we do it. So you have to have a similar why from that standpoint. And like Gary said, authenticity is key. You just can't fake that stuff. And it is just, it's super, super powerful. All right, your basic needs. This is really talking about, what is it that you need to be successful? So it's like, you're short on this person. You don't have that kind of talent. You're looking for whatever it is. You need to be able to share what it is that you need, how people can help you. The entrepreneurial community is awesome because everybody is rooting for each other to win. Even if you're in direct competition with somebody, I think that in the entrepreneurial community, everyone fights pretty fair. And there is a whole slew of people that want to help you, and they'll do anything they can to help you. But if you don't share what you need or how you can be helped, then you're never going to be helped. So that is key. And the thing is, so vulnerability is a strength. It is not a weakness. And you're going to hear all the time as you progress through your entrepreneurial journey that you need to be coachable. You're going to hear it over and over and over again. And really what that boils down to is you need to be open to listening to new ideas. You need to be open to telling people what you're not good at so they can help you become good at that task. You need a co-founder that offsets the weaknesses you have. You don't hire a co-founder that shares the exact same values, talents, and skills that you have, because now you're going to have two people that are good at the same things, and you're going to still have the same holes in your business that you had before. So you need to leverage that vulnerability. No one is going to make fun of you because you don't know how to do this or you don't know how to do that. Leverage it, and you will be amazed at what you're able to accomplish and what you're able to learn. And that is part of what I'm talking about, in the sense of, you get out of Start Peninsula what you put into it. It happens every year. I promise you it will happen again this year. Somebody's going to get mad because they didn't make it through to the next round. Someone's going to find an excuse. It was the judge. Gary didn't do this. Tim didn't do that. It happens every year. But the thing about it is that they didn't allow themselves to listen with an open mind and let people help them. It breaks my heart when it happens. But it will happen, and it will happen again. But just don't let it be you. What you got, Gary?
No, I totally agree. I get the pull to not want to admit your weaknesses, but I know before I went off on my own, and just cold turkey quit my job, which I don't recommend anyone, but I did do that. And it was a different time in the wild, wild west of the 90s. But before I did it, this friend of mine said, tell people what you need and they will help you. If you don't tell them, they can't possibly help you. And so that was a big lesson. And that just fits right into what Tim is saying. Yeah, you got to tell people what you need. If you need, if part of your team is missing someone and you need someone who is a graphic artist, and you don't have that person, and you need that, then tell them you need that. I need help in this area. But because again, if you have passion and they believe you, then they don't look at that as a weakness, that you're willing to say that and say what you need. So yeah,
It's a sign of leadership, for one.
Yeah. Tell people what you need.
And the other thing
I was going to say, also just really quick on the coaching part, I run into in my business so many people who hurt really bad because they need to move ahead or whatever. And they come to me and then I interview them. And before I even work with them, if they're not coachable, I won't take them as a client. I tell them it's not a good match and I'll refer them to somebody else, but I will not take them because I will just be, not that you have to do everything I say, but you at least have to think about it. It might actually be helpful, but there's so many people that are not coachable. And as Tim says, don't be that person that's not coachable. Like, come in, lick your wounds afterwards, go after it again, try it again. We have given people feedback that makes them rewrite everything that they presented to us. And then and they're mad and everything, but they do it. And at the end they go, wow, that first thing I gave you, that was garbage. We're like, right, that's why we had you rewrite it, because it was garbage. But we didn't want to tell you it was garbage. We just said, here's some suggestions. And so, yeah, being coachable. Am I right, Tim?
No, you're right. You're right.
There's so many people that has happened to. So yeah, just listen to it and then go back and really think about it. And then if you don't agree, come back and say, I'm having trouble understanding this. Could you explain this to me again in a different way so that I can try to embrace it? That's better than just cold turkey saying, I'm not going to believe you and go off on your own. So yeah, ask for help.
And the last thing to round this out, the beauty of asking for help on this platform is the audience that you're presenting to, they have huge networks as well. The judges have huge networks. Gary and I have huge networks. We have investors that were going to be on the call because they want to hear. You never know who is in the audience, and you never know who that person knows that's in the audience. So again, if you don't share how people can help you, they're not going to be able to. I think that we have murdered that one, but boy, it's an important one. And in terms of tricks of the trade, these are I'm going to turn it over to Gary and let Gary do the talking.
How do you get to, what's the old joke? How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 right? And that's the same here, is that if you think it's going to get to pitch night and there's going to be a miraculous thing that happens and you're suddenly going to be wonderful, you're probably wrong, or you're in the wrong business. And so I got to say, you got to practice. And practice means doing your pitch over and over and changing things. And I learned one time I bought advertising space on a radio program, and I bought a minute. It was called a minute clinic, and it cost $100 a minute. And I would go into this was in the probably early 2000s, and I'd go into DC to Washington DC to this recording place, the radio station, and I would have my stuff with me, and I'd practice and practice and practice. And they would go, it's too long, Gary, it's too long, it's too long, it's too long. And so I'd have to cut it. And I learned really quickly how long 1 minute was, and learn how long 3 minutes is, because you're gonna need to know, you're gonna have the sense of how it's going and when am I running out of time, and Tim's not going to tell you when you're running out of time. And the worst thing is to say, and what I really need from you all in the audience is, and Tim says time, and then you have to be quiet and now you're done. So practicing all of it is so critical, even though it's painful. And yes, do it with and record it. I think they come to that in a second here, but video record it, look at it. You and your dog can watch it together and nobody else has to look at it. And just do the work, and it pays off. It pays off. I don't know what the next bullet is, Tim. Oh yeah, Tim talked about not to start with a question. Well, first off, don't start with your name either. They don't care, and don't start with a question, because we get people on there and we go, you got 10 seconds for this. And they go, Tim will say, and the timer is on, go. And the person will say, no joke. They'll say, well, how many of you all have ever ridden in a helicopter? How many of you have ever, well, you just used up all your time, and nobody's raising their hand anyway. So that's just silly. Asking a question in a presentation when you have 45 minutes is a great idea, and you have a live audience that can raise their hand. It's a great idea. It is not a great idea in this. So we have other choices. What's the next one, Tim? Okay, so let me just tell you what some of them are. So you have choices like a startling statistic. Sometimes stories are great, but anecdotal stories about your life, unless they're really short, it's too long for us to understand it. So you have other choices like startling statistics, a date, some kind of point that's really short and clear, but none of the really long ones. And Tim and I'll help you with these as we help to coach you on these things. You need to go through your whole story, your 3-minute story, and get rid of stuff that doesn't matter. So sometimes people, as Tim said before, they want to spend 2 minutes on the problem. Well, or they want to spend 2 minutes on the solution. And a lot of times they'll say, I'll say, it's too long. It's irrelevant to your story. And they'll say, well, but people have to understand. They go, then let's find a better way for them to understand than for you to go on for 2 minutes about this, because it's got to be an easier way for your mom to get it. Like I always ask, does it pass the mom test? If your mom doesn't get it, it's too complicated. So let's find a way for it to pass the mom test.
Yeah,
then,
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, Gary. I was just going to say, in terms of like, one of the things that could be irrelevant to the story is if you can have a graphic, and that graphic can take a place, because you can use slides, that graphic can take place of 50 words because people can see it, identify it, and then visually they've already moved on. You don't have to describe that graphic to the tiniest of detail. They can see it. So then the words otherwise that you may have put in your pitch, all that is irrelevant because the graphic covers it all.
And this also applies, deleting anything irrelevant. We sometimes, in that same way that we don't want to talk about ourselves, we don't want to ask for help. I think in the editing world, they call it killing your darlings. And you don't want to, you've written this beautiful thing that you think is just lovely, and then you don't want to kill your darling. So you fight tooth and nail to hang on to this thing, which doesn't help. And so we may make those suggestions to you, like, get rid of this. If you can do that ahead of time, it saves embarrassment, so that Tim and I don't have to tell you to get rid of it. So you get rid of it. Tim alluded to this before. It's a story and it's a performance. A lot of people, if it wasn't a performance and it was just a voice performance, then we wouldn't have you on the camera. But you have a chance with your you're present there, that we can see you, that we can see your passion, we can see how you explain things. That's the piece, that's the performance. And it's also a performance in that it is well rehearsed, and you know what you're doing. You're not just reading slides to us. You are actually helping us to understand. I like to say that we want you to educate us and not lecture to us. So educate us. Think about the best teacher you ever had, and that teacher would teach you things in a way that you could then use that information moving forward. And that's what you want to do here. You want to, and it's part of the art that Tim talks about too. It's a story, it's a performance. You want to educate people, the judges, about this idea you have, this solution, and you want them to be interested in it enough that during questions, they ask you more questions. They can cover a lot when they ask you questions. So, for every slide that you or a line that you add into it, does it help the story? Is it helping you tell your story, or is it irrelevant, as we discussed earlier? Is it confusing people? Is it detracting from the story? Is it going on down a rabbit hole that we have no interest in, that's a totally different concept? So you really want to look at this stuff, and because you have such limited time, those 3 minutes need to really be perfect. It's very difficult, but if you can do that, you're way ahead of the game. So, anything else, Tim?
Yeah, do you want to touch on Gary's rules of slideology, the rules of
Yes,
six?
Michelle's nodding her head because she had to endure these. Yes, when we co-taught a class together at the business school at William and Mary one summer. Yeah, I always tell people I go by the 6x6 rule. That means for text, if you do not have more than 6 lines of text and do not have more than 6 words on the line. Anything else makes us read it. And if we're reading, because we can't multitask as much as we think you can, if you think you can multitask and you've ever talked to your mother on the phone while you're doing email, your mother knows that you're not paying attention. And my mother used to call me out on it all the time. So we can't multitask. So you can either, we have the choice of listening to you or reading the slide. This is why pictures are often beneficial as well, because I can decipher the slide, the graphic on the slide, while you're talking to me. But if you put all kinds of text on the slide, I cannot, I'm going to read the slide. I'm not going to listen to you, given the choice. So that's one idea on slideology. Another one is that, and I love this, this is where your company tells you, or you learn somewhere, that the company says, you're only allowed to have 4 slides for this 20-minute presentation. Well, your presentation requires 23 slides to explain it. So now what are you going to do? You're going to cram 23 slides worth of data into 4 slides. And now it's not helpful. And I call that cramming 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag. So please do not do that either. Yeah. So those are some of my slideology techniques. 6x6 rule. There's also I'll put it in the thing here. There's a great video by a guy named John Phillips, and he talks about he's done brain research and stuff, and he talks about some of the features of PowerPoint and things like contrast, using dark slide background instead of light slide backgrounds, and just how the brain works, how many objects to have on the slide. I'll put it in the chat. I'll go look it up in a sec here and put it in the chat so that y'all can see what it is. How many slides is a good range to have?
Generally, the rule of thumb is 10 to 12.
Yeah, but we'll figure that out as you go. you know, as you practice, you'll go, it's too much stuff. So, okay, so that's what does that cover my stuff, Tim? I don't remember
Yep,
all,
that's it.
I don't remember all of my wisdom.
Well, and now we open up everything to questions, but here is the contact information, how you can get in touch with Gary, myself, and with Start Peninsula. But again, I encourage you all to, there is one slot left. Take advantage of it. You are here tonight, so you have to me, between us, the people that pitch in March and April, I think have the a great advantage, because if you have an off night, everyone has them from time to time, but then you can come back in April, or you can come back in September or October. But you all will participate, pitch in March. You're going to do great. And then you'll have the opportunity to go out and talk to even more customers and work on your business between the end of March, March 22nd and November 8th. And you can talk about how much progress you made. And that really, to me, that's a slam dunk, or at least helps. It's an alley-oop come November at for the championship pitch. But that said, we're going to open up everything to questions. We're going to
Hey,
give
Tim,
up.
or everybody who's listening, I just put that link on YouTube for JP Phillips thing about death by PowerPoint. It's only like 20 minutes. It's worth your time. And explain why some things are good and some things are bad ideas.
I got a quick question. You were talking about the kind of lack of either your reading or your listening. You can't really do both, and I agree with you on that. Do you think, would you argue that that's why a lot of these example pitch decks, like everyone says, go check out Airbnbs, go check out Ubers, etc. When I first looked at them, I was like, there is not a lot here on these slides. Is that because you think in their actual pitch, they're the ones speaking, the presentation of it was more of what the delivery was, and the pitch deck itself was just kind of a backup performance for what they're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. And one of the things, like some people, they have their slides to like run on auto timers kind of thing, and so that could be one tactic that somebody uses to help them time, so that they know that as the slides automatically progressing, that they're telling the story in the same time frame of how that 3 minutes is going to end. But yes, I say that in the sense of, yes, the story that they were telling, whether if it's Uber or Airbnb, I mean, they've done it so many times that, yeah, that the story aspect of it is the thing that's memorable, and that what people resort back to. Now, there's also the whole ideology that, gosh, totally blanking out on his name, the founder of LinkedIn. If you're not embarrassed by your first product, then you waited too long. So there is that aspect too. And so, like, certainly people will look back at especially the unicorns. They'll look back at their Reid Hoffman, look back at their initial pitch deck, and they're like, "My gosh, that was terrible. That was just awful." But long-winded answer to your question. Hopefully, I answered it.
Hey, Tim, there was a question here about, could you elaborate on the format of the Q&A portion?
Yes.
And I put in the thing here, each judge asks one question, then the pitcher has 2 minutes to answer the 3 questions.
That is correct. And we do that by design and on purpose. So whoever asked that question, thank you so much, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah, and we do that on purpose because, so this is the deal. Every time during Q&A, there's people that either will talk themselves out of a top 3 spot or talk themselves into a top 3 spot. And so we really want to work with you all to teach you how to handle the Q&A portion. So when you're doing Q&A, I want you to think about like tennis or ping pong, where you're volleying back and forth. So a question is asked, you answer the question. A question is asked, you answer the question. In this case, the judges ask all 3 questions, and then you have 2 minutes on the clock to answer all 3 of those questions. So we're forcing you to answer 3 questions within 2 minutes. We don't want you to drone on and on and on and on, because otherwise the Q&A portion of the event would be longer than the actual pitch portion of the event. So it forces you to be succinct, address the question, and move on. But the other thing about it is that it takes a lot of pressure off of the founders, and we can see like that's when the real natural passion comes out during that Q&A, and it really is very, very helpful to the founders, more so than it should be scary.
Yeah, because they're off script then. They can't script for the questions that are going to be asked. So yeah.
And the last thing that I'll add on the Q&A, if for some reason you run out of time, or if you didn't answer the question the way that you wanted to, you still have time to, since we're doing this on Zoom, answer that judge's question on direct message saying, hey, I didn't have time to completely answer the question, or I want to elaborate on the answer that I gave you, so that you can use that to your advantage as well. You also can use it as of, hey, I would love to meet up for coffee sometime too. Can we, and then we can talk about it further. So there's different things that you can do.
Ian has a question.
Hey, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just need to, sorry, I'm on my phone. I had to move, so I need to refer to my doc for my notes. Okay, yeah. So earlier you said in terms of splitting the time between, you start with, the 10-second attention getter, then 50 seconds on the problem, 50 seconds on the solution, 10 seconds on the name, and you split it up like that. But when you get to, how would you split it up between the problem, the solution, team, marketability, execution, and basic needs? Like, how would you split it between those factors?
Yeah, I would, and that's where we're talking about like adding sentences, seeing how that block fills up with time, and then going back to look at, all right, what is the most impactful? What has the most relevance? What is not relevant? What doesn't have the biggest punch? And then to start carving stuff out, or looking at how can we weave certain things in together so that we can say multiple things at once by saying the same thing. That's really like where the difficulty comes into play, and why and where that practice comes into play. So as you're saying this out loud and you're timing yourself, all right, I'm 6 seconds long. How can we massage this to trim 2 seconds here or 2 seconds there, kind of thing. So it's just constantly reworking and playing to massage everything out. Gary, you have anything to add?
I suggest going and watching the past pitch events.
And they're all on YouTube.
Yeah, to go watch those, and you'll see how people masterfully craft their story in this time frame. And so I mean, you could look, I think the final one, is that still 3 minutes or is that 5 minutes?
3.
It's
They're
all
all
3. Yeah. So yeah, go look at all of them, and you'll see that how these people, and then note who won, and you'll see how the winners did their things, and then you'll see how they artistically put that stuff together. Does that help, Ian?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
Not to fixate on the structure that you kind of laid out in the beginning, but are the judges looking at that specific structure when they're judging your pitch, or can you deviate and feel like this would, in this case, maybe be better if I move the customer portion up a little bit, or if I move the things around a little bit? Like, is that what they're judging on specifically, or is there room for adaptation?
Yeah, there's certainly room for adaptation, and the story aspect, one, makes it more memorable, and it also allows you to adapt. In terms of the judge's rubric, there's four segments to it, and it is literally the problem, the solution, the market, and the pitch delivery. So how well do you articulate the problem? And I think I'm most positive I used like 90%, 95% of the verbiage directly from the rubric on those slides, so that you saw tonight. You all will get a copy of the recording as well. So you can refer back to this if you wish. But yeah, so it is like scale of 1 to 5. How big is the problem? Oh yeah, I think that's a whatever. And how creative, how likely, how attainable is the solution that you're providing? How well do you know your market, and how well do you deliver the pitch? So those are for this time around, those are the three basic things. We're teaching the fourth in terms of the pitch delivery. And then in November, we'll add some additional things like how you make money, what is your value proposition, those types of things. But for the purpose of those are the three things that they're looking for.